Hello and thank you for tuning in to 90.4 Amman FM. This is Hussain Al Lawati and I want to ask you a question. Have you ever met anyone who's been to North Korea or even visited Pablo Escobar's house? Well, you're about to, because with me in the studio is Hussain Al Lawati, who is a traveler and adventurer, and he's here to tell us all about his stories from South America and North Korea. Thank you for joining us and welcome.
Thank you, Sarah, for having me.
So, Hussain, I want to start off this interview with kind of a broad question, but I think it's an important one. So, out of all of the countries that you've been to, what was the most eye-opening experience you've had?
That's actually a tough question. I usually get asked this a lot. I don't know, every country that I've been to has been special somehow in its own way. But if I had to choose, it would be my first trip to South America. I went to Peru and Bolivia. So I always wanted to go to South America, and none of my friends wanted to join me. You know, it's a bit far. We don't know many things about it. So, they weren't excited about it. But I decided to go, I think in 2017, the first time. It didn't happen, so I planned it in 2018. And I think it was special because I wanted to go to Machu Picchu. It's one of the world wonders. And it's a first trip that I went by myself to South America, and it was the longest. It was around 3 weeks. So I think that was one of the special trips. The people I met there, the experiences, and I saw Machu Picchu. So since then, I started, I loved South America. It's a different world that we don't explore coming from this region, because we always have that stereotype that it's, dangerous. There's so many things that we don't know about, full of drugs and cartels and all these things. But yeah, that was one of, I would say, special trips to me.
Yeah, it's true. I don't think I've ever heard of anyone going to South America. But we are going to get to South America in a bit. But before we get to that, I want to give our listeners some context. And I want to ask you, how many countries have you traveled to?
I think 55, 56 countries.
Okay, amazing. Yeah. And do you want to visit all the countries in the world?
I would say that's the ultimate goal. It's not really about the number as much as it's about the experience. But obviously having the number as a KPI, it's good,
Yeah.
To keep track of how many countries you've been to.
Yeah, I mean, it's an amazing goal, so why not? Now, going back to South America, you mentioned that you took your first trip in 2017. So you've been to South America a bunch of times, I guess.
My first trip was 2018, South America.
Okay.
Peru and Bolivia. And then the next year, I started doing it every year until COVID happened. And then I took a break and then I went again. So I did 4 trips to South America.
Wow.
2018, 2019, 2020. And then COVID. And then I think 2023. And hopefully, inshallah, this year as well.
What draws you to South America? Why do you go there every once in a while?
As I said, the culture, it's very close to, I would say, the Arab culture. Family-oriented. There's so many things that we don't hear. Or maybe it's the curiosity to see something new. We've been used to traveling maybe to Europe, Southeast Asia. And we've seen a lot of it. But South America is still, for us, it's unexplored. So I think it's the curiosity for me to just do something new, find something new.
Okay, so what countries in particular did you go to in South America?
So I've been to Peru, Bolivia. That was my first trip. The second trip was Cuba, Colombia, and Ecuador. My third trip was Costa Rica and Panama. And the last one was Mexico, and I was supposed to go to Guatemala, but they did not let me in.
Okay.
So I had to... They returned me back to Mexico.
Why did that happen? Why wouldn't they let you in?
I got the right visa, which is I was supposed to get in with the Schengen visa. And I checked before I go if I can get in with the Schengen visa. And apparently I could. And they let me in from Mexico. So I was in Mexico and I booked my ticket to Guatemala. And usually before they let you into the next country, they check at the airport. And they checked and... I could go on a Schengen visa. But once I arrived there in Guatemala, I think it's something political. I don't want to get deep into politics, but maybe because I'm an Arab or something. So the officer at the airport wasn't convinced that I can get into Guatemala with a Schengen visa. It's either he was not aware of the new rules that I could get in with a Schengen, or he just didn't want to let me in. So I stayed there. I waited for like an hour and a half, asked me some questions. Why are you here? What are you doing? And he just decided that I'm not allowed in.
Oh.
Yeah.
Do you experience these kind of difficulties a lot when you travel there?
I do get into the magic room. I called it the magic room, where they interrogate you, ask you questions. And I think it's part of it, like because I come from Oman and it's not a very common passport they see. So they want to know why is this guy here, especially if I'm alone, for example. So yeah, I got into that room a few times.
And what kind of things do they ask you?
Everything. Like I got once into that room in Mexico, the same trip actually. They let me in, they made me wait for like an hour and a half. They asked me almost everything about myself, what am I doing there, my parents, where do I work, where do I come from, why do I want to go there, what's my plan. And I show them everything. Like usually I have everything in detail, so I'm ready for these things. But the officers in Mexico airports, they did not know as well that I could get in with Schengen visa, although it's like in their websites. I think it was a new rule, like 2 years only. People usually get into Mexico with the American visa, but I didn't have my American visa at that time. So at the end, they asked me which company I work for, and I work for an American company. So I told them, like, I showed them one of my pictures in the American company with the logo. I was wearing a coverall and the logo. So they researched the company and they found that it's actually an American company, and that's when they let me in.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's insane. I could never.
After an hour and a half of continuous interrogation.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Okay, so you've been to a lot of countries in South America, so I guess it's tough to talk about all of them today, but I do want to ask you, maybe you can give me one of the examples, but I want to ask you about the people and the culture and the lifestyle there.
I think a lot of people would want to know more about Cuba, for example. Cuba was very special and interesting because, you know, with the sanctions they've been through,
Yes.
they've been kind of isolated from the world. So they still kind of live the same lifestyle they've been living since, I would say, 50s or 60s. So you still see the old houses that are like close to each other. It has the South American taste, which is small and very colorful. Music is all over the place. You know, they're simple people enjoying their time, their life. Obviously, there's poverty, but it's not as bad as people would think. Like because it's like a socialist country, so they provide all the basics for them, like the food, place to live, and everything. So you don't see people on the streets. Some beggars, I would say, but no homeless people. So I think, and obviously the classic cars.
Okay.
So they have the most amount of classic cars all over here.
And the colorful buildings.
Everywhere.
Yes.
I think that's a common thing in South America. Most of the countries you go to in South America, they have these big neighborhoods with very colorful buildings.
So one thing that really stood out to me as I was going through your Instagram, I saw that you posted that meat is not widely available in Cuba. So I really wanted to understand why.
Yeah, so back in 2019 when I went, it was very, let's say, expensive to get meat. But at some point, it was even criminalized to buy meat. It was only sold like in the black market, and only people with money could afford it. And I think it's because it's not widely available, because it's expensive to raise livestock there. So I remember we stayed with a homestay family, and they tried to smuggle meat into the house.
Oh.
So no one knows about it. I think especially like the neighbors, so they don't know that they actually have money maybe. So they want to keep it on the low.
Wow.
Yeah. So it was very interesting.
So you didn't eat meat there very much?
No, it was mostly like rice, wheat, beans. They eat pork, obviously. It's widely available, but we don't eat pork. And when you go to restaurants, you can find it in restaurants. So we as tourists, we used to go to restaurants. You can find it. But then it's not that cheap. but I'm talking about the locals. So the locals can't afford having beef, especially beef.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's insane. Their
Yeah, it's
lifestyle
luxury.
is so different. So you did mention that you stayed with a family.
Yeah.
And is this the same as Casa Particulares?
Exactly, yeah.
So can you tell us about that a little bit?
Yeah, so basically Casa Particular is more of a guest house where local people open their houses, like a room or maybe 2 rooms for you to stay with them. And as they told us, it started like back in the like after the war, where a lot of men like left to go to war, and obviously many of them died. So the women, because they couldn't afford to live, they started opening their houses for like tourists, for people to stay in for money, just like Airbnb, I would say. And it became a thing. I think the government kind of legalized it officially in, I think, 1997. So it became a big thing there, and it's very like interesting to see the culture, live with them, live the life they live. So we stayed with a family. It was Rosalina. I still remember, like we're still in touch with her. She stayed with her mom and her little son, and she gave us a room. Like she had 2 rooms for tourists. So me and my friend stayed with them, and the other room was for like students from Mexico. So we all lived together. We lived day-to-day life with them, played with their kids, like in the neighborhood.
Wow.
So it was a very interesting experience, yeah.
So this is there in Cuba. It's more common to stay with families than it is to stay in hotels.
It depends what kind of traveling you would like. Like if you would like to experience this part, you can stay in Casa Particular, but there are hotels available.
Okay.
Not many, but there are hotels where like tourists stay. And I would say now, I think it's more open to tourism, so there are more options. But if you go back in the 2000s, early 2000s, I don't think you could find many hotels. So
Okay.
people kind of had to stay with homestays.
Okay, it sounds like a really nice experience. So you get to
So
see
it's,
the
it's
culture.
part of the experience, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so now I want to move on to Colombia. And one thing that really stood out to me was that you actually went for a volunteering experience to Colombia. So could you tell our listeners about this?
So 2019 as well, after Cuba actually, I went to Colombia and I decided that I want to do a volunteering trip for a week. So we stayed in a guest house, all of us, like all the people who were like participating in this volunteering experience. And you basically had to choose which kind of project you wanted to do. So people, like you had options of construction, feeding the poor people, taking care of the elderly. So I chose construction at that time. And in the morning, they used to take us to our project, basically. All of us, we go to this neighborhood and everyone goes to their project. So people of construction, they would go to a specific house. They give us, we had a supervisor who would tell us what to do on that day. So fix the wall, painting, anything of that kind. Obviously for people who are, let's say, in need of those things. And my other mates, for example, they want to cook food for the people in the neighborhood. And in the afternoon, they would come and collect us and we go back to the house for lunch. And close to evening time, there would be like an open session. So one of them was going to those rehabilitation houses where they have teenagers, 13 to 16 years old, I would say, who come from families abusive, into drugs. So they put them in those rehabilitation houses to take care of them and, develop them for a better future. So we used to go to those houses, play with them. Everyone tried to teach them some of the skills they have, like painting, English, for example. And, you build those connections with those kids, and it's amazing to see such initiatives from those people.
Yeah.
Another part, which I think I mentioned before, is we visited one of the biggest prisons in Colombia. So that was very interesting because we met the people who are well behaved. They took us to the cell, not cell, it's the space where they stay, the well behaved people, where they finish actually their sentence within like 2-3 years, or they've done good in the prison. So they keep them in one space, and we go to visit them like once or twice a week. We mingle with them. We make them feel that they're part of the society. So once they get out, they feel that, okay, they're still part of this and they can, get into it back again. Because, in Colombia, most of them, they come from these neighborhoods where it's full of crime, drugs, and these kind of things. So it was, very interesting. We met a lot of, I would say, people who did a lot of bad things in their life, but they're ready to go back and hopefully do good.
Do you have any stories from these prisoners that you can share with us?
Yeah, so I remember meeting one of the guys. I think his name was Philip. He was in his late 60s, and he was telling us stories about, he was a big guy in the cartel.
Okay.
He worked with Pablo Escobar.
Oh.
So Pablo Escobar is one of the biggest drug dealers in Colombia and in history, obviously. So he was telling us all these stories about how they used to run away from police, how they killed police people, how they used to steal, how they had like a big room of cash money. They used to sleep on it. And the way he used to tell us, it's like he's kind of proud of what he did. Okay, I'm not promoting for these kind of things, but I mean, they come from these environments, and it was, interesting to listen to them.
Wow, that's crazy because for me, all of these stories feel so out of touch with reality, and the fact that you met people who've actually worked with Pablo Escobar.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
When we left, it felt like a dream, it's if those stories, is it true or not?
Yeah.
But some stories, other ones, we heard that one of the guys who was sentenced, I think with 15 years, he was trying to smuggle around 100 kilo of drugs.
Oh my gosh.
On the borders between Mexico and, I'm not sure, Panama maybe. And not Panama, sorry. Mexico and Guatemala, I think. And he was caught right on the at the borders, and they sentenced him to 15 years.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Now, speaking of Pablo Escobar, you also visited one of his houses. Can you tell me about that experience?
So that was basically a tour done by his nephew. So I think his nephew, after Pablo Escobar legacy failed, he started a tour company and took one of Pablo Escobar's houses and kind of transformed it into a small museum. So he had all his things. He had a safe door where he could run away if anything happened. And Pablo had that in every house, by the way. So it's a back door.
Quick escape.
Yeah, it can escape. We saw as well the first small airplane, where he smuggled a lot of kilos with that. It was in the house. He showed us a lot of the ways that they used to smuggle, in tires, in tables, those cavities in tables. They used to fill them with drugs and stuff.
Wow.
Yeah, but the guy is is a normal guy. He had his past, but now after Pablo passed away, he started this business and started try to keep out of these things. So he started this tour company. Yeah.
Wow, that's crazy. But Colombia obviously has so much more to offer, and I want to ask you, what else did you see there that really stuck out to you?
So Colombia, one of the things I was into, I wanted to experience the coffee culture in Colombia. It's very big. I wasn't into coffee at all, by the way, then. I never even liked coffee. But I decided to go to the coffee region, one of the places called Pereira. So it's small towns, in the south, I would say, or middle of Colombia, as I remember. And they produce coffee. So I went to one of the farms. They showed us the process of producing coffee, from the beginning to the end. Most of the coffee there are owned by foreigners, most of the coffee farms. So they either own the farm, or basically they bid on the coffee that they produce. And what's sad and strange at the same time is the bad coffee stays in Colombia, and the good coffee goes outside because they need the money for it.
Yeah. Wow, amazing. I mean, I guess that's every coffee lover's dream, but it is quite sad that they have to export it. So now I want to ask you a bit about the Amazon rainforest, which you also visited. And it seems to me like the Amazon rainforest is just such a magical place, but also really scary. So I want to ask you about some stories from there.
Yeah. So the Amazon, I wanted to go on my first trip when I went to Peru, but I got sick, so I canceled the Amazon part. So I decided to do it in my next trip. The year after, when I booked for Ecuador, I decided to go to the Amazon from the Ecuador. So basically, the Amazon forest is part of 8 countries. Peru, Bolivia, Venezuela, Brazil, Ecuador. So you can go from to the Amazon from any of those countries. Obviously, each part of them has different diversity, different biodiversity. You can see different animals. So I did like a 3-day trip where we stay in a lodge in the middle of the Amazon. It was very interesting because, like, you know, it's an elevated wooden place. It's built on like a high elevated wooden structure. And you stay there for like 3 days. There's no Wi-Fi, no connection with the outside world. And every day they had like a program for us to do something like a hike between the woods. We did a night hike, which was interesting because you hear all these sounds and you don't know what's going to happen next. But alhamdulillah, nothing happened because we were with one of the guides who were actually from the Amazon, from the one of the tribes, and he knew the ways, he knew everything there, he knew the animals, he knew where he could find them. So after we did the hike, we went on a small boat hunting trips for anaconda. So he was like driving the boat to specific place that he knows. Obviously, it's like between the trees, and he suddenly puts in the stick that he had, and he pulls out this huge anaconda. It was very interesting to see. But
how
he knows
did you react when you saw
like
that?
we were a bit far, so we were safe. And I would say they won't attack you without a reason. Yeah. He did not annoy them. He just like picked one of them, showed it to us. We took videos and stuff, and then just returned it back to its place. And it was huge, so it was very interesting to see.
Wow, I could never. It sounds terrifying, but also amazing.
Yeah, and as he was like driving the boat, you could see like alligators. He can see it from its reflections, obviously. So you could see alligators. You could see different types of birds. So it was very interesting.
Okay, before we move on from South America, I want to ask you if there's any other experience that you want to share from that area.
I think I would mention the last trip to Mexico. So we did a long trip, me and my friends, across Mexico. We drove around 2,600 kilometers, and we experienced a lot of nice things. And I think the main goal of that trip was to experience the Day of the Dead, El Día Los de Muertos, as they call it in Spanish. So the Day of the Dead is basically a national holiday that they have in November, where they celebrate the dead. Because I think it's a Catholic and an Aztec culture where they believe that life does not end when you die, and there's a continuation of it. So they celebrate their dead every year. On these dates. They have these food festivals. They have customs. They wear costumes of dead people. You paint your face like in a skeleton kind of shapes and stuff. So it was very interesting for us to experience it with them. They go to the graves of their loved ones. They put like candles, and they do their prayers, obviously. So we actually experienced this with one of the Mexican people. We went to one of the graveyards, and it's not as scary as you see it maybe in the pictures, because it's like people are happy, having food, laughing, because they don't believe, as I said, life ends at death. So it's like a mini celebration, which is a bit different, strange to us. So it was very interesting for us, to experience that part.
Wow. I think after this, I really want to visit South America and
Yeah.
experience it for myself. Okay, so let's move on from South America and let's talk about North Korea, which you've also been to. Now, how did you explore North Korea? Did you build an itinerary? Were you accompanied by anyone during the trip? And how did you even end up there? Like, how did you
Yeah.
go?
It was on my bucket list for a long time. And I saw one of the travelers that visit North Korea. So I was curious if I can go as an Omani. So I contacted the company that it's a tour company. So yeah, North Korea, you cannot just enter it by yourself. It's one of those countries that you need an invitation from a tour company to go in with them and have a fixed itinerary. So I contacted the company back in 2018, I think. And it was an easy process. You just submit the documents that they want, which is normal information about you, where do you live, some details about, I think, my parents as well. And they just provide the visa for you. So you go with them through China. But before going, you have to go to a briefing session in Beijing. I think it was 2 to 3 hours where they tell you all the rules that you need to follow strictly before getting in. Because it's one of those places that if you break any rules, you might get into big trouble that probably no one can get you out of. So yeah, one of the rules that they mentioned, like a few rules, you can't take picture of anything except after you take permission. And if you take pictures of anything, it have to be in the frame. Like if they have a lot of statues of their leaders, so it has to be within the frame. So you don't cut the leg or the arm or anything. It's actually an offense that you can get in trouble with.
Wow.
Yeah. Another thing, you are not allowed to bring in any religious material. If they catch you like with the Quran or like Bible or anything, you will get in trouble, like big trouble.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
What else? What are some of the other rules, if you can recall?
Basically, you have to follow the rules in everything. You can't go to any place by yourself. And if you want to talk to any local, you have to take permission as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. And speaking of locals, what were they like? And were they surprised to see tourists?
Yeah.
Or at
They're
all?
pretty surprised. I think it's like being in a village in Oman. Like if you go to a village and like if I'm a foreigner who come from, let's say, Europe, and I go to a village in Oman, people would find it maybe something new. So they will look at you in a surprised way. Not necessarily a bad thing, but that's what we kind of felt like, okay, what are these guys doing here? Which is kind of normal. Yeah.
And what was the food like in North Korea?
So it's mostly like South Korean food,
Okay.
vegetables, beans, rice, noodles, but a very, let's say, interesting food, not very interesting, but different than us, is dog meat soup.
Oh.
And it's a national dish there. So they eat it as a traditional food.
Okay.
Yeah, obviously I didn't
Interesting.
try it. But one of the girls in the group who were with us, she tried it, and she said it's not bad. Like
Really?
it's it tastes like chicken, I think.
Oh.
Yeah.
Wow, interesting. I never would have thought that dog meat would taste like chicken. What else did you see in North Korea that I think would be interesting for our listeners to hear about?
Yeah. So it's very tailored. You cannot go left and right, obviously. One of the interesting things is the metro station. So the metro station is very deep. It took us, I believe, 1.5 minutes in the escalator to go down. It's very, very deep, and I think they built it for the wars. So you get in one station, and you get out after 2 stations. And I believe every tourist who's been to North Korea, they go through the same exact stations. Like they get in and get out. So the question there, like everyone was wondering, is it really a whole metro station, or they built that just for tourists?
Oh.
But if you think about it, I don't believe they would spend that much money and dig deep just for 2 stations. So there definitely have to be a bigger bigger stations and.
Yeah. So I think one major question that a lot of people would be very curious to hear your answer to, did you have access to the internet in North Korea?
Yeah, no, we were completely isolated. They told us that there's an option to buy internet, like I think few MBs per day, but it was very expensive. It was, I believe, more than $200. And we decided that we're just gonna live the experience isolated.
Okay.
Yeah. So it was 5 days without internet completely.
Is it different for foreigners or tourists versus the locals?
Both of them, they can't access the internet.
Yeah.
I mean, now, as a tourist, you probably have an option, but locals don't have any option to access internet. Even if they do, which I believe not yet, it would be very limited. They can't access any of the other apps that we do access, like Instagram, WhatsApp, and these kind of things.
And with regards to entertainment, like in your hotel, or first of all, where did you stay, and did you have access to entertainment like you would in other countries?
So the hotel that we stayed in, it was basically just for tourists, and I believe all tourists in North Korea stay in that hotel. It's basically covered with water on an island. There's only one access in and out to the hotel, so no one could try to run away if they would. But it was a huge hotel, and it had all the entertainment. It had like a barbershop, it had a pool area, it had a massage room, I think, laundry room. So all the services that you would need are in the hotel itself.
What about TVs and...
We had a TV in the room, but it was, I think, 3 channels only.
Okay.
And they control all the information that goes to the people, especially the local people, through their propaganda, not getting into politics, but they control all the information and the access to information.
Wow. Would you go back?
I think I would. There's actually a very interesting trip they do, which is like a marathon. People go there to run a marathon with the local people, and they experience those things. There are also a lot of things to do in the northern part of the country, which I could not do. There are a lot of nice places and hikes. Yeah.
Okay.
But in that trip, we experienced the mass games. So the mass games is basically those games they do, I think in the summer, almost every day. 100,000 people, North Koreans, they join those mass games, and they do like all the acrobatics, like different plays that shows the history of North Korea, like their focus on agriculture, military, basically all the history that goes with North Korean culture. And they showcase it in those games that goes for around an hour and a half. I don't know. I think I have some pictures that I can share with you.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Wow, that sounds so interesting. Okay, I want to ask if there's any other stories that you would like to share about North Korea before we move on and conclude the interview.
We were wondering the whole time if what we are seeing in North Korea is the actual truth, or it's just part of it. Obviously, we cannot see everything in 5 days. But because it's tailored, so they take us to these specific places that they obviously control. So one of the places they took us was this park in the middle of a city, very nice park. And the moment we got in, we saw that everyone there was above 50, 60, but everyone was like in a happy mood, dancing, singing, playing with games with each other. Like the men were playing like board games and games with like stones and stuff. The women were dancing. So we're wondering if it's actually that the life that they're living, the actual life they're living, or it's kind of staged for us to see. Yeah. And we could not find the answer for it. Like until now, when we speak about it, me and some of my friends who were there, we're like wondering if that part was real or no. But it was interesting. We had a talk with them. Obviously, we cannot speak the same language, so it was just like us doing like sign language with them. Some people danced with them as well. So it was very interesting, yeah.
Wow, what a story to end this with, Hussain.
Yeah.
That's actually very interesting. And now that you've recounted all of your stories and your travel tales with us, I want to ask you the same question that I started this interview with. And I want to ask, what is one thing that you learned or took with you from your experience traveling to both South America and North Korea?
I think it's always to be open to other people's ideas, cultures. We usually live in this bubble, thinking that this is our world, but we neglect that the world is so big around us. There's so much to see, so much to explore. So you have to always be open and accepting to other people's beliefs, ideas, and if it's different than yours, then you should just accept it and go on with it. You don't have to live by it, but you can just accept it, yeah.
Some wise words. So where are you traveling to next?
Inshallah, Brazil. Inshallah.
Okay.
Still planning it. Maybe it changes, but yeah.
Okay, back to South America.
Back to
then.
South America.
All right, thank you so much, Hussain, for joining us today.
Thank you,
I
Sarah.
loved hearing your stories, and it was very eye-opening for us as well. Thank you.
Sarah. Thank you for having me. It was a great session.
Thank you.